You say from what's gone on so far, you don't believe that Peter Cook wants custody.
No, I really don't.
Why?
Because if with my experience, children are, especially for a woman, it's their Achilles heel. Mm-hmm. If you're going to try to come after me, you're going to say something about my kid. You know, that's my weak spot. And so I often see that that's a chip. They really don't want custody. It's really about money, or they want something else. So they're saying basically, oh, I want the children. They really don't. You'll see that magically come off the table when they get the things that they really want. And in here, they're fighting over assets, which I don't understand on top of everything else because they have a prenup.
That's very clear, apparently.
Well, something's wrong with the prenup. Something's wrong there because these issues, as far as assets, never should be coming up.
To be able to have on their transportation system, on buses, going to the airport, they're allowed to have guns. That's what their state law says. Nobody's asking for guns to go past the security facility, so you're not going into the direct airport where people are. And they're also allowed in restaurants, and airports have restaurants. So they make it like a pseudo mall where people are, and they're allowed to have their guns there. Well, yes, they do.
Everything is just because it's from their perspective. And if you're even looking at the manslaughter, you're looking at these things, again, we're looking at two separate, unfortunate, horrible incidents. An accident that I believe was the officer's fault, and you just hit upon. No seatbelts. Of course that has an issue. The prosecutor just said, no, it doesn't. Doesn't affect the outcome. We all know that seatbelt saves lives. You have a passenger who I know is going to have a civil action against the state police who's very injured, who was charged with a DWI, and you have the officer who didn't wear a seatbelt. So please don't tell me that this would have been the same outcome.
But how were those local authorities supposed to know that at the time?
Easily. You check, you see he's in a gang, and you say, wait a second, he's in a gang? That's a good one. I should investigate that one. Wait a minute. You're in a gang? You're in jail. You get right out. Oh, you shouldn't look at anything right there. And the fact that they processed him. No one checked.
You can't prove citizenship. I mean, my goodness, they knew where he lived. Go to his house. Serve a subpoena.
Pieces of circumstantial evidence.
Well, here's the problem. Especially in this case, the absence of something is can be as important as the presence of something. So the fact is that since the crime scene itself in 2004 was not preserved, you don't have, or we don't know about, fingerprints or lack thereof of hers, of potentially his, or of anybody else's. So we don't have any of that information. We don't have any information about the DNA results of if perchance it was his, even though it was his bathroom, or of anybody else's. So the fact that there's so many things that are missing doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be him.
All right, Joanna Greenwald.
Of course, his present wife is missing, too. His present wife is missing.
But you know you can't introduce that anyway. Not in this case.
Again, what does a principal do when both of you were in school and if you got into a tussle? No matter who started it, they bring both of you get some form of detention. And as I brought up again, someone didn't get any detention. Matter of fact, they said, why don't you go home? And matter of fact, I'd like you to think about suing Disney World.
You know what I'm thinking? When we were all kids, Jamie Wasserman was mediating, and you and I were taking sides. But
that's right.
No one was in the scuffle, not amongst the three of us. All right. It's great to have you on. You're going to stick around.